What is up, everyone? In this video, I will try to implement, an art style. Try to move away from the things I usually do, as at some point, you realize that you're not really satisfied with your art. So, this is my attempt to try to, make my portraits less realistic, because I want to try to implement more of those polygonal shapes and try to harden the edges. As you can see, based on the references I've used, because recently I've been really drawn to Valorant's art style with their striking, bold shading, or rendering style for that matter. So I decided to choose, I started from scratch instead of repainting it over like what I did with the J.K. Simmons portrait. Unfortunately, I don't have that recorded, so here's the results, the before and after. And surprisingly, a lot of people on Instagram preferred the repaint. Having more bold, confident brushstrokes that are more visible, and less of that realistic, smooth shading rendering. So yeah, instead of painting it over, I'll try to paint Emma Myers here from scratch. I hope this goes pretty well. I try to limit myself to maybe 2 to 3 brushes. The main brush I would use is the highlighter brush. A brush that has square edges, but it's not 100% hard edge of a brush. It's somewhat smooth by the edges, but it still has that rectangular shape. Although the results of this painting may not be the best, in my opinion, because it still has that painterly feel instead of using hard striking edges. So I asked a few people in the community, and they mentioned that Suka, or the main illustrator of Valorant, likes to use cell shading. Cell shading is what they do in anime, or like animations in general. So it's strictly just hard edges. So it could either use a very hard edged brush, or we can just use a lasso tool and use the paint bucket to fill over it, which I unfortunately did not do that, because I got that answer after I finished the portraits. And what I've also noticed is that during the painting process, I have this new adjustments layer, just in case if I want to make it more smooth or add detail, which I don't think it's the best choice, but I did it anyway because it's my first attempt. I searched up a bunch of brushes online, which I found something that may resemble Suka's brushes, but yeah, I ended up only using that for parts of the hair. And what I've noticed from his art style is that there's a lot of hard edges. So starting future videos, I'll probably do a master study where I try to take pieces from Suka's artwork and try to reverse engineer or break down his brush strokes and how he does certain things, because I really want to achieve that sharp, bold, striking look on my portraits from now on. As because at some point, if you're just painting portraits, realistic portraits, you would it's going to be difficult for me to have my own art style. So from now on, I'll try to take Valorant's art style and try to implement it on my own piece, and I'll probably do that for the next few months. Then maybe I can move on to, I don't know, another artist's art style. Who knows? No, of course, don't forget the color dodge part, which I try to make using a lasso tool with the color dodge layer. And there's another point that I would like to point out. Oh, that sounds kind of... Anyway, there's another thing that I would like to point out, is that I'm not doing this for commercial work. This isn't a commission. This is just a practice for my own good. as master studies can really help you what works and what doesn't work on an artist's piece, you know. Because once you've mastered art, you would, you know, eventually have your own art style. So try to pick a few pieces here and there. Before Suka's artwork, I was actually inspired by Ilya Kukshinov on how, you know, my facial proportions look. But then eventually I moved on to more realistic portraits. And at some point, all I did was that, and just kept doing portraits daily for, I think, about almost 2 weeks straight, and which eventually led to me having a burnout. Then I stopped, you know, painting digitally for several months. Then I just came back, and I wanted to teach you guys on this channel. That's pretty much it for the video. So if you're more interested in more art content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you on the next video.